Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas. Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejados.
Because this here's the wildest ride in the wilderness.
Hello, everybody. I'm Alicia.
I'm Nathan.
And I'm Brent.
And welcome to episode 75 of Adventures and Mousecapades.
This week, we're going to recap the glorious history, month by month, of Splash Mountain. That's right. We're going to cover all 34 years and the highlights of every month. Okay, maybe that's a little excessive.
That'd be a long episode. I mean, we do sometimes get into long episodes, but no, we're not going to do that. What are we doing this week, Nathan?
This week, we're joined by Brent, who was the leader of our Merry Band of Misfits on the Facebook group for our recent cruise on the Disney Wish. Turns out this wasn't Brent's first time doing that, and he was even leading the Facebook group on the next sailing too. Is he crazy for doing that? Let's find out.
First off, welcome, Brent. It's so nice to have you to talk with today.
Thank you for having me. It was great meeting you guys on the cruise ship, and I'm glad that I get to continue the friendship here.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you share with us kind of your Disney resume, your vacation resume?
Oh, okay. So, yeah, that's a good one. So, my wife and I met almost 23 years ago, and our very first vacation that we took was to Disney. She found this fantastic deal where it cost us $300 a person for flight, hotel, 4 days worth of theme parks. Now, granted, we weren't staying on property. We were staying at like a Best Western or whatever it was at the time, but we were broke college students. And so it was like $300 a person or something like that. That was our very first vacation together. We then ended up honeymooning there. And then we kept going back every now and then. And then we had a trip planned. We wanted to go take our daughter. And then we joined the Disney Vacation Club, which anybody that you've talked to, like the first thing that they say is, I wish I bought more points. Mm-hmm. And the second thing is, I can't believe how many times I go to Disney. So, so we did that literally 12 years ago today. I found the Facebook memory popped up for it that I had decided I was going to run my first ever marathon. And of course, I was going to do it at Disney because why wouldn't I do it at Disney? So this past year in January, I ran the 11th Dopey or something like that. My 11th Dopey, 13th year in a row of running it. So yeah, it was absolutely crazy. So we go every year in January. We had our kids. We decided to try out Disney cruising. Mm-hmm. We've been on, my wife and I are now platinum. We have been on our 11th sailing was the second sailing, the one after I was on with you guys.
That's right. I remember we were complaining of having to hang out with somebody who was just gold. Ugh.
Yes, it was awful. Like all the peasants down there. And before anybody, yes, that was very, very sarcastic on my end, not on Nathan's end. By any means. But yes, so we've done 11 sailings, and that's kind of it. I always love the question on the Disney survey. How many times have you been to Disney? And I'm like, what's the greatest box on here? And it's always like 12 plus or whatever it is. And it's like, do you plan on coming back? You already know this because you have my 4 reservations. So thanks for asking, Disney.
Yeah. Not next week, but potentially the week after we'll be back. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've been on 11 Disney cruises. Have you ever done any other cruise lines?
Yes. So our first sailing together was actually on Carnival. Again, broke college students. We drove down to Mobile, Alabama. That was an overnight drive, praying that both cars got there in time. And We were the first ones at port and the last ones to get on the boat because there was a screw up with somebody's paperwork. Yeah, we had an absolute blast on that sailing. We sailed Carnival a couple more times. We sailed Royal Caribbean 3 or 4 times. We sailed Norwegian once, and then we sailed on Disney Cruise Line, and we haven't sailed on anything since, other than Disney since that Disney Cruise Line.
Yeah.
That's not for a lack of plans. We have had plans to sail with friends on other ships, but then COVID hit and that sort of changed things up. So, but yeah, Disney has been our last 11 sailings.
Nice.
That's awesome. We're finally cheating on Disney for the first time in October. So we'll see what Royal Caribbean has in stock for us. But
yeah,
we came very close to looking at our plans and going like, if we just shifted this by a day, we could take the Disney cruise and do the same thing.
Yeah, we like priced it out. It's like, it's not that much of a price difference. I mean,
no, I mean, it's, like I think the best thing to do is to actually try the other cruise lines so that you know what the differences are, right?
Yeah.
It's like one of the things that we absolutely love about Disney is we know what the level of service is. Now it has been like 11 years since I've sailed on another ship, but from that first Disney sailing, it was exponentially better for us. Now, granted, we had little kids at the time, so that was a big thing. Like that was what set us apart for it. So it was like, okay, yeah, we could pay less, but we really like the level of service that we get and the friendliness of the people. So, but yeah, like I was supposed to go on a Carnival cruise for a guy's trip, and that fell through. We were supposed to go on a Royal Caribbean cruise, and then COVID hit. So I was like, okay, yeah, they're different. They're definitely different, but it's each has their pluses and minuses.
Yeah,
sure. So you've been on all of these cruises. When did you start realizing that, there's like community groups out there on Facebook or there's some other forums and things like that? When did you discover that?
So our very first sailing, I forget who we were talking to about it. And then my wife went crazy with the planning. She always does. It's not a knock on her by any means. It is phenomenal. She's got, when she gets hyper focused on Disney planning, way back in the day when we had like the paper fast passes and the electronic fast passes at Disney World, she had it like, okay, Brent, you are going to run from, Space Mountain all the way across the park to Pirates of the Caribbean to get the paper fast pass while I'm booking our, electronic fast pass. She would plan everything out. That was, again, back when the Disney dining plan was like $60 a day and we were making out like bandits on that thing.
Yeah.
So when it came to the cruise, she was like, let me figure this thing out. And she was like, oh my gosh, there's a Facebook group. So we joined the Facebook group. And she's like, and at the time, the Diz boards were really popular for cruises. They have since faded out just due to the Facebook groups being a lot better for organizing things and that sort of thing. So she went nuts with it. When I say nuts, it was, we had to order the magnets for the doors. We had to do the fish extender. We had to do like custom tip things for all of the crew members. We had, I think it was like 10 bags of like candy and gum and just cash to like hand out to crew members of stuff that they couldn't necessarily get. Toothbrushes were in there because apparently on the Diz boards at that point in time, crew members were saying, hey, we need toothbrushes. We don't have access to like buying a toothbrush. So it was like, okay, why are we doing all this stuff? And that's where it went. And then we went on our second sailing and we were again on the Facebook group, and every single sailing, including our canceled ones, we have been in Facebook groups. So from the get-go, and everybody that I talk to, they're like, oh, I want to go on a Disney cruise. And I'm like, join the Facebook group, join the Facebook group. I have a friend from college who's literally on the Wish right now. He's on night 3 on it. And he was like, hey, after our sailing, he was like, hey, I'm going to be hitting you up. And I'm like, are you in your Facebook group? And he's like, what do you mean Facebook group? And he joined it and he was like, this is overwhelming. And I go, yes, it is. but breathe. It's okay. You can work through it. So I have been on the Facebook group bandwagon since the get-go.
Can you give your sales pitch on why somebody would want to join a Facebook group about their cruise?
Yeah, so the best thing about the Facebook groups is that whether it is your very first sailing or whether it is your 50th sailing, which is somebody on another group was sailing their 50th one, there
Goals.
is a wealth of knowledge of things that people don't know or learn. I've been on 11 sailings, and every single group that I've done, I have learned something new. And it could be something very minor, right? Like cake of the day that you can have ordered for room service, which I forgot to do on our sailing, but I learned about it because of our Facebook group. And someone was like, "Hey, you know about cake of the day?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about, cake of the day?" And that is like, cruising and vacations in general can be overwhelming, especially Disney, right? And there's this whole, like, I got to plan and I got to do this. And then once I'm there, I get to relax. And the Facebook group alleviates a lot of that stress. So it's like, you have any questions, they get asked, they get answered. And if you need more details, then people are willing to give it. So this is not a knock on travel agents, because travel agents do a phenomenal job. They really do. I feel bad for them today. Today is May 31st, and they have to book their January stuff today at Disney. And they get overwhelmed with stuff. But just sitting here and be like, "Oh, can I bring a Tervis mug on here?" Yes, you can. Use it to fill up at the soda station. Things like that. Your easy questions. "Oh, what does this mean? What do I do for this?" Just boom, 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 boom. It makes things a lot easier. And then I think, especially after COVID, when we returned to sailing and the different changes that happened and staying on top of it, I know that my first sailing, once returned to sailing, the things changed on a weekly basis. And everybody in that group that was on that sailing was so thankful for that group, because I stayed on top of it running that group to make sure that everyone knew what we had to do to get on board. So that is my sales pitch for joining the Facebook group. Is there's just, whether you participate or not, you don't even have to leave comments. You just need to read the info that's there.
Right.
And you're going to be good.
Okay. Before we go on, I missed that post on our group. What the heck is cake of the day?
Oh, I know about this.
So cake of the day is there is a specific cake that they make on board every single day, and it's the cake of the day. And you call down to room service to have it delivered to your room. That's it. That's what cake of the day is. So I knew about room service, and I knew that you could get the Mickey bars and all that stuff. And I was like, okay. And then, as I said, someone was like, "No, cake of the day." And I'm like, "Are you kidding me? Like, what is cake of the day?" And I'm like, "I have to try this." And I didn't. I failed. That was not in my planning notes.
Next time.
Yeah. Well, it was, part of it was also, we wasn't on this one because it was a brand new ship to me. So I was so busy trying to figure out the new ship and explore and so on and so forth. So, but yes, that is what cake of the day is. It is literally just, one day it could be chocolate, the next day it could be carrot, the next day it could be cheesecake. Like, I don't know what the options are. I just know that there's a cake of the day.
And do you just get a slice, or do you get like a little round cake, or what do you get?
I didn't know he didn't get to do it.
I didn't do it, but from what I have been told, it is a slice. But again, since it's room service, you could be like, "Can I have 4 pieces of cake, please?" And they will gladly bring it to you. Right?
All right. So
There's that.
We have some goals now. I
There's
need
that.
to do.
And we haven't tried the sommelier bin yet either.
No.
Brett, do you know about the sommelier bin?
The sommelier beignets? No, I know about the ones at like on our ship on the Wish at the Bayou, and then on the Wonder they have them as well at I forget what that area is called on there.
This
now.
is actually the sommelier bin, BIN.
Oh, just kidding! I thought you said beignet.
That would be interesting. I'll have the Merlot with extra powdered sugar.
No, I am not a big wine drinker, so
I'm not either.
Yeah, So I don't know what that is. So again, I'm very curious. What is this exactly?
If they don't finish off a bottle at Palo or Remy, it can be available at Meridian or other
The
venues
Rose or
like
wherever
that. Yeah, or
Yeah.
the Rose, for a much less expensive price the next day. So
Interesting.
you can ask what's available from the sommelier bin, and you might be able to get some really high quality wines that way.
Yeah.
That is, see, I'm going, hold on. I need to type that and put that into a notes. Like literally, sommelier, that's not how you spell that. Bin, get wine from Palo for cheap.
I'm writing down cake of the day
Cake
right
of the
now.
day,
So
yep.
Yeah. Yeah. No, this is going in. I'm going to look into this. And then, the Tink tips that I would post in our group on every Tuesday, that is going to be, I'm going to turn this into one. So that is fantastic.
So if anybody's wondering what a Facebook group is like, it's kind of like this.
Yes.
Like, what have
But
you
in
heard about?
text
What have
form.
you heard about? Yeah, it's fun.
How many cruise groups have you led?
So I have officially led 3 cruise groups, and that
Okay.
was because this one I did our March 27th and then our March 31st because I was doing back to back.
hmm
My first one was actually post COVID, which was in October of 2021 sailing. And then we had been on 2 other sailings between then and this one. And when it came time to book this one, because we were doing back to back, I had told my wife, I'm like, hey, I had a lot of fun doing the one for October. I think we're going to do the one for our sailing. And she was like, which sailing? And I said, yes. And I'm actually appreciative of doing the back-to-back, of running both groups, because there were things that, like our group, the March 27th group, was very active early on. It, like, from the day that both groups were made, I had 6 times the amount of people in the March 27th group that I did for the March 31st group until about January 15th. And then all of a sudden the other group exploded with people, and got a lot closer. It was, I found it very, very odd. I don't know if it was because that was a 3-night sailing and people are like, well, there's only 3 nights. I don't need to know what I don't need to know, type thing, versus a 4-night sailing. I feel like, you're on a 4-night sailing and you start to plan your extra stuff. 3-night sailing, you're like, get on and just lead me wherever I need to go. So personally, I don't like 3-night sailings. It's just it's way too short. But so it was good from that standpoint of really getting to know people in the March 27th, and then being able to do the back-to-back stuff and having people on the sailing previous to ours on that March 24th group that were doing a back-to-back 24 and 27. They got to help answer questions for us, for my wife and I, which then I got to answer questions for other people in our group, or people. There was 4 people in the 27th or the 31st group that were then sailing afterwards. So I got to meet a whole bunch of people that were doing different back-to-backs throughout the whole thing. I'm really glad that I did, because talking to one guy that was doing the March 31st and then whatever the April 3rd one, I think April 3rd, I think it was, he was saying that group was just not as active as ours. So, and that was the March 31st group. And that one, as I said, was not very active until about January, about 2 months prior, 2.5 months prior.
What led you to lead? Like, how did you move from an active participant to somebody who is going to try to organize and cat herd to a small degree?
So I had a sailing on June of 2019, and it was the moderator for that group was Daniel David. Some people have sailed with him, and if you've sailed with him, you know how he runs his groups. And it was a very, very well run group. And he had his set list of things that he was doing, and then he was like, if anybody else wants to do anything, do it. And I was like, okay. And that was a 7-night sailing, and I was like, you know what I want to do? I want to lead a pub crawl. And he goes, go for it. So I was like, who's interested in a pub crawl? And of course, like 80% of the group was like, sign me up. We had, I think, 35 people meet up to do this pub crawl on an at-sea day around the Fantasy. and it lasted like 4.5 hours. We hit up like 6 different bars on the Fantasy. It was absolutely great. Other things that I did in that group, like I had done, like we had our bracelets. Someone was like, hey, drinking around the world Epcot thing, but like, let's make it for the Fantasy. So I made a card that had like all the different bars of where you could get it, bonus points if you had a drink at, any of the restaurants, including Remy and Palo on that ship, and the different bars at Castaway Cay and everything like that. So I was a very active participant. And then when I was on board, I was that guy on a 7-night sailing. So, for those that don't know, pre-COVID, on the 7-night sailings, they had other outside entertainment that was there. And there was a guy, the guy that was there was a juggler. And my whole goal is to embarrass my kids. I think it's the best thing in the world as a dad. And so the juggler asked, which parent thinks they can juggle? And I shot my arm up so fast. And my daughter pulled my arm down. And the juggler saw it. So he brought me up. Now, the funny part is I could actually juggle. So then he was like, well, let me just sit down because here's the new show. So because I was up on stage that first night, everybody knew who I was. And then I got hypnotized on that sailing. And it was a lot of fun. So I was that guy. So it was very interactive already pre-sailing. And then we got onto it. So fast forward to COVID. We were supposed to sail May of 2020. And that sailing got canceled. So then I had joined, we had rescheduled for September of 2020, thinking, like all of us did back then, that we were going to be sailing 2 months later. And I joined that group. And that group had been around, obviously, since the sailing had first started. Right. And there were a bunch of people in that group. And I came in 3.5, 4 months prior to sailing. And I came in wanting to participate. And honest to God, there were admins in that group that were being very childish. And like, I would post something and they were like, oh, we already have that. Somebody that does that. Okay, I'm sorry. Nobody posted it for the last 2 weeks. So I figured I would post it. Did something else. And they made fun of the graphic that was used for the countdown. And I was like, what is going on? And there were some other snide comments that were made. And I get it. Everybody was stressed out. We didn't know if we were actually sailing or not, that sort of thing. And it got to a point where I messaged the one moderator of that group, and they had like 12 moderators, which is way too many chefs in the kitchen. And I was like, look, here's the deal. This is just as much as my sailing as it is yours. I understand you guys have all been Facebook friends in this group for 10 months at this point, and everyone's like high strung and that sort of thing. But you can't exclude all these people that are rescheduling and trying to be on there. And I said, I'm not going to help contribute. If somebody asks a question, I will gladly answer, but I'm not going to do anything else. And they were like, no, that's not what we meant. That's not what we meant. And I'm like, no. Like, I don't put up with like people being made fun of or anything like that. So I told my wife, I was like, okay, when we rescheduled that September of 2020 for October of 2021, I was like, I'm going to run this Facebook group. And she was like, why? And I showed her all the posts of everything and, what I had decided. And she was like, that is such a load of crap that happened. And she was like, absolutely go for it. So I ran a cruise group during COVID, right? When we didn't even know if we were sailing. We didn't find out that we were sailing until the first week of June, and we were sailing in October or second week of June. And actually, even then, we didn't realize if we were sailing because we were on the Fantasy, we weren't on the Dream. And our sailing was a 7-night sailing, and they had shortened it to a 4-night sailing due to COVID restrictions. And we were the last one that got shortened. So it was absolutely bonkers. But I ran, in my opinion, one of the best run at the time Facebook groups. And I know I'm biased because it was my group, but I know people that were on other sailings. And like, I had a no COVID post policy rule because I was like, look, we all know what's going on. Nobody knows what's actually happening with sailing. I will keep you guys informed. So I did everything I could to keep it fun. I had trivias, like all the posts that you guys saw in our group that were like scheduled every single day. That's where that came from, was because I was like, how can I distract these people?
Oh,
We
wow.
did voting on favorite character, villain, ride, attraction, like didn't matter, just wanted some form of Disney engagement. And then when we got on board, because we were at like 30% capacity, so the ship felt stupid empty,
Yeah.
we realized that we had 64% or something like that of the passengers on that sailing were in that cruise group.
Oh,
Oh, wow.
So absolutely crazy of who was able to do it and who wasn't. So yeah, that was my first foray, was running it during a super stressful time. And I said, okay, I do plan to do it again. I don't have a sailing booked yet. My next potential sailing that I'm going to do, I will not be running a group because it's already been made. But yeah, I plan to do it because it's fun for me, and I like meeting and talking to people. So
yeah. Is there some sort of cruise group czar that plans out and figures out who's going to run which group and creates groups, or is it a lot more organic?
no, so literally what happens is Disney says, okay, on June 15th, we're going to announce our, September of 2024 sailings or whatever the random date is, right? And then everybody gets access to, okay, these are the sailings. And someone just steps up and says, I'm going to run this group. Sometimes right away, sometimes not right away. And then what happens is there's two really big Disney Cruise specific Facebook groups. There's Disney Cruise Line Junkies, and then there's Disney Cruising. And they both have a sticky post of cruise groups. So then if you have created it, you just go in there, you leave the comment that says, I have created this group. Here's the link to it. And then they put it in there. And that's where I would say, 60% of the people that join the cruise group come from one of those two Facebook groups. The rest are previous people that have already sailed, and they know that you can search Disney Wish March 27th, 2023, and it'll pop up. But yeah, it just is, someone just happens to do it. And this past winter, I was on a sailing, and the admin left because they weren't on that sailing, and then someone stepped up, and then that person left.
Oh, wow.
And so someone else stepped up, and I had been in that group just because it was a potential last minute sailing, and we ended up doing it as a last minute. So I barely participated in that one because I didn't want to make Facebook friends with people and not get to meet them face to face for that sailing, because that's, to me, that is ultimately the best part of the Facebook group, is interacting with people in the group, and then finally being able to go up to somebody, shake their hand, give them a hug, drink a beer, whatever, see a show, have conversations with them in real life, and not be keyboard warriors. No one's a keyboard warrior in the groups I run, but it just is it's just so much more fun that way. And you're not that shy, awkward, middle schooler going up to an adult like, oh, are you Brent from the Facebook group? No, you already know that it's me. So you come up and you go, hey, Brent, I'm so-and-so. I'm in your Facebook group. The bracelets that we do, it's purely as an icebreaker. That's literally all that it is. Is it's used as an icebreaker, so that if you see somebody wearing one of those, especially for the kids in the kids clubs, right? Because kids just go up, they don't even care what your name is. They go, oh, you like Toy Story? I like Toy Story. We're best friends now, right?
Yep.
I wish adults were more like that, and we tend to be because of the Facebook group. Because of the Facebook group, we met several people on this sailing, and we still talk to them after this sailing. And it's great. It's just the way that it is. It's the way that I think it should be.
Yeah.
I will say, I have started a couple of Facebook groups, not wanting to be an admin of it, but notice there's no group for my sailing. Let me start one. But this was way back in 2018. And while I am good at organizing things, I don't want to run a group. There's just, that is a very extroverted thing, and I am not an extrovert at all.
No, I get that. And because you are putting yourself out there, right?
Yeah.
Whether intentional or not, it's just a consequence of running the group. Because if you're the one that is making all the posts, then you're the name that everybody's going to recognize. Facebook has done a lot of great things to help make things a lot easier. I don't know if I told you guys this on the sailing or not, but Facebook has a nice little scheduling thing that you can do. So I literally would sit down in about 3 hours. I would have all my posts scheduled for an entire month.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't that I was up every day at 7 a.m. posting the thing. It was 7 a.m. was the time that I had scheduled everything.
Right.
So like in my October of 2021 sailing, we had done birthday shout outs. I didn't do that for the March sailing just because it was spring break and I knew that there would be a lot more kids involved. And so I'm very cognizant of that and that sort of thing. So I didn't do the birthday shout outs. Some groups do. It's fine. It's great if somebody asked me to. But like 5 a.m. was my birthday shout out. 7 a.m. was whatever post it was for that day. If we were doing vote on a favorite character, and that was true for this sailing, that was 9 a.m. Drink of the day was always Friday or Saturday at 5 p.m. Why? Because the phrase is it's 5 p.m. somewhere, right?
Yep.
And it's always on Friday or Saturday nights. Depends on the sailing. So it makes things a lot easier. I literally print off a blank calendar and I go, okay, Sunday is this, Monday is this, Tuesday's Tink Tip, Wednesday's trivia, Thursday's the answer, boom, 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 boom. I set everything that I need to do, and then I just schedule it all. So it does make things a lot easier now as an admin. And for that March 31st group, the Sailing After Hours, like I posted that stuff and I didn't really have a lot of interaction at the start of doing it, but there were 4 people that were all about it. Like every single, like that, the Wednesday trivia stuff, they were every single time answering that question. They were like, ooh, I got this one. Ooh, I got this one. Which was great to see. And then that's how other people sort of stepped up. So, you can always step up, create the group and just say, hey, I don't mind helping out, but I don't want to be the face of it. And you just say, okay, I'm going to do this. Like the next group that I run, I am not doing fish extender organization. That is not fun for me.
Yeah.
So I am not going to do that.
It's almost like a full-time job.
It was for like 3 days straight. That was all I was dealing with. And I was like, come on. And then when people put in, my name is Brent Todd, but my Facebook name might not be Brent Todd, right?
Right.
And it might just be Brent T. It might be Brent W. Right. And so then it was like trying to figure out who is who based off of that. Or the worst is when the wife signs up the husband as the primary person and the husband isn't in the Facebook group. Yeah, that's why. That's why I will not be doing the fish extender stuff on whatever sailing group I run. Again, I will leave that to somebody else. I will set some ground rules for things that I expect for it, just because I've seen fish extenders get way out of hand, and I want people to go on a sailing and be stress free and just have a good time and not have to stress out about fish extenders, which is an extra thing and it's an extra cost.
Yeah.
And I was in a group, this was, I think, my 3rd sailing, and the post said, yeah, so it's a minimum of $25 a person, and it was like 10 cabin groups, and they were asking for t-shirt sizes, and like people rebelled. They were like, no, it's like $25 total for a cabin of 4.
If you want to,
please be reasonable. If you want to spend more, go for it, but there's no set minimum, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And that one ended up still being a lot more calmed down. But yeah, I don't want to run that spreadsheet. That one was too much.
I mean, it can be stressful just participating in a fish extender group. This was actually our first cruise when we were on with you, that we actually didn't do fish extenders. We were just like, you know what? We're just going to let this one slide and we'll be okay. And we still enjoyed it. Like we still hung up and decorated our door and whatnot, but it was fine. It was great. We still had a lot of fun. You got to take a rest. So what kind of time investment? I mean, you've talked about like you're able to pre-schedule some posts. Obviously, if you're running the fish extender groups, that can be a bit of a time sink. Just in general, how much time are you spending on the Facebook group? We'll say kind of in a before the cruise phase, and then what's involved when you're on the ship?
Yeah. So pre-sailing, everybody does things differently. I like to make sure that there is a new post every single day. And the reason for that is just Facebook algorithm and having people talk and having people interact, that sort of thing. But I also like to make sure that there is some sort of schedule. So for me, it's always on Tuesday is the Tinkerbell Tuesday tip. Always. And that's just an image with, a fun thing. So because of the scheduling stuff, which makes things so much easier, it would take about 3 hours for me to figure everything out that I was going to post for the month. So for me, that was things like this day in Disney history, the Tinkerbell tip. We had our weekly countdown was another day. We had trivia question, trivia answer. We had movie of the week, and then drink of the day. That's your 7 days worth of stuff. I've done other things where we did on the October sailing, the first one that I did, we did a fitness one because there were a lot of people that were wanting to try to get in shape for the cruise, which is something that other people do. And so someone had said, hey, can we have like a fitness post that's posted every single week? And I was like, absolutely, not a problem. So found a bunch of Disney fitness images and, took those and put those into the group and scheduled them and so on and so forth. Other people that run groups, they might post once a week, if that. So the amount of time that you want to put into it, running a group is totally up to you. For me, I have found that the more that I put into the group, the more fun I am going to have once on board. And that is just due to the fact that I know that I am stress-free and that most people that are in that group and on the sailing should have had almost all of their questions answered or so on, something along those lines. And I'm still also another resource that they can ask questions of while on board. Again, TAs are great, but you can't necessarily communicate with your travel agent when you're on board unless you're paying for the data plan. Now things have obviously changed a little bit with free messaging of that sort of thing. Yeah. But that free messaging might take 48 minutes to get through before it goes from the ship to your travel agent that's, in Florida or Arizona or wherever they are.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're on board and you're like, hey, Brent, I have this question, what's this for? Done, makes things easier. I'm all about, one of the things that I try to be is I try to help as many people as possible do good, receive good. That's basically, sums that up. So once on board, things are a little bit different than they used to be. So like my first sailing, most people weren't paying for data packages, and there really wasn't a lot of posts that were going on in the Facebook group during the sailings. That first day, once you get on board, all of them always have a post of like, hey, what's your Disney chat ID for in the DCL app? There's also a lot of that first day, like, hey, I'm here, look at my photo. So you know who I am, try to meet people that way. And then there's not a whole lot of stuff that happens. Now, I think due to everything going from paper, right? We used to have the paper navigators to now everything's in the DCL app. Because people are more connected on their phone, they're more likely to pay for the $12 or $10 a day or whatever it was for the internet package. And so you see people posting on Facebook and that sort of thing. All I used it for was to just say, hey, if I had scheduled something, like if I had scheduled a pub crawl or a castaway crawl or drinks the one night that we all met up, like, hey, meeting at Enchanted Rose tonight. That's it. Nothing more. I'm not checking it to see if someone's having an issue. If you're having an issue while on board, you either, you can find me, you can shoot me a message, or you go to guest services, right? But I'm not like, I don't have my alerts going, oh God, Nathan just posted in the Facebook group. No, like there's no, the alerts get turned off. It's when I log in to the app, then I see everything.
You're not getting paid to take care of everybody else's vacation. You gotta worry about your own.
Yeah. And for the most part, nobody's posting stuff like that,
Yeah.
The one thing that I do see people post a lot is, hey, I can't get my kid's DCL app ID to work. And it's because somehow, somewhere, someone typed in a digit wrong on their birthday. And that's what it falls down to. So then you always have to go to IT service, and then they're like, oh no, their birthday is not January 1 of 2001. it's January 11th of 2001. You're like, oh yeah, 11111. Like I didn't
Yeah.
type it enough.
Yeah.
What's your favorite part about being a cruise group coordinator?
The best part is the first day meetup. Is by far that's my favorite thing, because on ours, I think there was something like 50 people that showed up to it or something like that by the time it was all said and done. And while I didn't get to remember everybody's name and faces and so on and so forth, it got other people meeting each other and got people, to form friendships and to form bonds with people. And so while I might not be able to sit here and say, yes, I had a drink with all these people, and I only had a drink with, like 15 people out of the 300 that we had in the Facebook group. That first day meetup, there's just such a great energy because everyone is so excited to be on board the ship, and you're just so happy to meet people, and you're like, oh yeah. And right, we're all Disney nerds when it comes down to it. Like everyone that goes on a Disney sailing is a Disney nerd, and you get to nerd out with, people that are there for the same reason you are. It's like, it's different when you go down to Disney World or Disneyland, with friends, and it's one thing because you're like, oh, okay. But like the Disney cruise, it's just a completely different vibe. That first day and that first day meetup there's always something special that day.
So how about the flip side of the coin? What's the toughest part about being a leader, a coordinator, a cat herder?
So one specific thing that I had already mentioned was the fish extender. Running that is way more complicated than it should be, because in theory it should be pretty easy, but in practice it's not. Right? It's a spreadsheet, name, cabin, people's favorite characters, allergies, done.
Right.
Put people in groups. That part's the easy part. It's then confirming everybody to try and lock things down. That's where the hard part comes into play. But that is something specific only to like Disney cruising.
Right.
The other hardest part is when you have to deal with bad apples. As I said earlier, do good, receive good. I try to lead by example. I don't put up with people being made fun of in groups for anything. I don't think that that's appropriate. And so every now and then you get somebody that makes a sarcastic comment. And while there's a time and a place for sarcastic comments, there's also a time and a place not for sarcastic comments. And, the wrong comment at the wrong time can really change the tone of a group. Like a great example is in my October sailing, where people were frustrated that I had the no COVID rule. There was a group of people that were very upset, and they were apparently messaging somebody else in the group. And they were like, why can't we do this? Brent's being mean. And it wasn't my wife, just to be clear. It was not my wife that they were messaging, And so then I said, okay, fine. There seems to be enough interest. And we had one day with one post where people could vent their frustrations with COVID sailings. They could ask their questions. We could do all this fun stuff. And I said, and then afterwards, we're going to get back to our regularly scheduled programming, right? Like, okay, I knew that the group needed it just to keep moving forward, because we didn't know if we were sailing at that point. We honestly didn't. And I kept telling everybody, we are sailing, we are sailing, we are sailing. And people were mad. They're like, you don't know that we're sailing. I'm like, no, we are sailing. And they got mad that I was staying positive. And I was like, no, like, don't put bad thoughts into the world. Don't be like, no, we're not sailing, because then we're not going to end up sailing. It's like if you go to run a race and you think, oh man, I'm going to nail this 5K and I'm going to run it in this period of time. You're like, great. You're more likely to do it. If you go to that starting line and you're like, this race is going to suck and I'm probably going to fall, I'm going to have to walk all of this, you're going to have a bad race, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I mean, like herding those bad apples and making sure that the way that I run the group is that's not the place for it.
Yeah.
So
totally.
While you can vent frustrations and, if you have complaints and that sort of thing, absolutely do it in a constructive way. Don't do it while bringing things down and bringing people down, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Do you think you're going to organize a Facebook group again in the future?
Absolutely. I just don't know what sailing it's going to be. As I said, we have a placeholder booked that we're probably going to use for a sailing in February with some people that we met on this back-to-back sailing.
Nice.
We haven't finalized that yet. We're just waiting to figure out schedule-wise. But I won't go in to a Facebook group that has already started, or like if I book a sailing that's like 6 months out, that sort of thing, and there's already a group that's going, I will go in, I will be friendly, I will offer to post things. And if they say yes, great. And if they say no, my feelings are not hurt, and it's okay. If I do run a group, it is because Disney announced what the sailing is, and we said we are going on this sailing in 15 months. And so I am going to start a cruise group that day before booking is even possible, just so that I have it and that I can run it from day one the way that I want it to be run. Because again, if you have bad apples that started a group, then they leave and you go and take over it, somebody starts reading through those old posts and they're like, what is this? Like, these people aren't fun. And it should be all about fun.
That actually brings up an interesting question. So if you're going in and creating a group really right off the bat, what's the critical mass that needs to be in the group before you really start doing a lot of the content and everything else that you've been talking about?
I have two markers, basically. The first is 50 people in the group, including myself and my wife, so technically 48 people, 48 other people in the group. Once you hit 50, then that seems to be when people really start to pay attention to a group. Now, 2 people to 50 people, what gets posted is the moment someone joins, now boarding the Disney insert ship, their name. I feel that is a great post to have for every single person. Sometimes groups of people, right? Because you get like 6 people a day, that, or more. But I feel like that's a great first post so that people can talk about themselves and tell you, hey, this is what I am. And that was how we found in the March 27th group that we had a large Chicago suburb. Like, it was absolutely insane. We had so many people from the Chicago suburbs. We had a meetup before the cruise at a brewery here. So that 50 is where once I hit 50, then I start doing some of my scheduled posts, not necessarily in every single day post, but the ones that are definitely helpful. So the countdown starts from day one, from week one, as soon as we know how far out it is. That one is always going up. But the tank tips start to go up. Other fun stuff, sometimes the trivia goes up, or the drink of the day will go up, or movie of the week. I won't necessarily schedule it. I'll just start posting it. Or I'll schedule a couple of them just sporadically, just to see what gains some traction and what doesn't, and go from there, and then start to focus. And then once I hit that 100th person, and there's a post to celebrate the 100th person, that's when I'm like, all right, we have enough people in this group that, like Alicia, you might not check Facebook on Mondays and Tuesdays just due to whatever your job is. And so you might not check it. But Nathan always checks Facebook on Monday and Tuesday, but then that's the only 2 days that he checks it, because the rest of the time his job doesn't allow him to do it. So that's when the scheduling of stuff starts to happen, is when we hit 100, and go from there. And it also makes it really easy for people to sit there and say, okay, have I seen this before? Can I search the group for this? By having those set things.
When we met at the meetup on the day we got on, you were a little stressed about like all the wristbands and everything. And you're like, I don't know why I did 2 back-to-back cruises and organizing both groups. How did that work out, running basically 2 groups at the same time? And then would you do that again?
So the biggest stressor for the back-to-back groups was the fact that I had a meetup for us on the March 27th, and then I had a meetup for the next sailing on March 31st. And because there was a lot of overlap, right? We had the bracelet order for both sailings. And then we also did fish extenders for both. Like, we participated in both, and we did magnets for both. Was just, from a stress standpoint, was making sure that I had everything sorted and separated. So, like, I know that when I got there for that meetup with the bracelets, like, I had pulled one of the bags for the March 31st group also. And I wasn't supposed to have that bag. Like that was supposed to be in the luggage that was underneath my bed, right?
Yeah.
And I was so frustrated about that I had pulled that. Like I remember that looking at it going, this says March 31st, you dumb idiot. Like what is going on here? So that is like the stressful part. That was the stressful part for the meetup. I don't know if I'll ever do a back-to-back again, only because most of the time when you do back-to-back, you're doing like a 4-night and a 3-night sailing, right?
Yeah.
So that you have a full week. And I don't like the 3-night sailings. I really don't, because it's you get on and then you have dinner and then you wake up and you have, drinks and dinner, and then you're like, oh, I got to get off the boat.
Yeah.
And for me, like on this sailing, we thought, oh, doing the back-to-back, it's going to feel like a 7-night sailing. And the 4-night sailing was fantastic. It felt like a 7-night sailing to us, because we were like, yeah, we're going to get right back on.
Yeah.
And then after dinner drinks that first night, when we got back on, we were like, this is done. Like we're done. Even though we still had 2 more nights, we felt like this is over. Like this is done. And so I don't know if I'll ever do a back-to-back again.
Yeah.
We have friends that want to do a back-to-back, but 7-nighters, and do like an Eastern and a Western. And I'm like, if I'm going to spend 14 days, I might as well do like the Greek Isle cruise or the Mediterranean cruise or the transatlantic cruise or one of those longer ones.
Yeah.
But I'm also kind of intrigued by that, but we're not there. We don't have the freedom to be able to do that at this point in time.
I was going to say, if you really like the longer cruises, can I interest you in a westbound Panama Canal transit?
Yes.
Yeah, it's on our list, actually. We want to do all the long sailings at some point. I know 2026 we're planning on doing the Florida to England cruise.
Nice.
Assuming that they still have them, right? Because at that point we'll have 2 more ships, and we don't know what ships are going to be where. But I don't think I would ever run a back-to-back cruise group again, just because I don't think I'm ever going to do a back-to-back cruise again.
Yeah.
That's, while there were stressors, it still was a lot of fun. But yeah, I like my 7-night sailings, and that is what I plan. My next cruise group that I plan to run will be a 7-night sailing for sure, or longer.
We very much prefer the longer sailings.
Yeah.
The shorter ones, you just don't have enough time. Of course, we have 2 shorter ones planned in the future, but
those are 2 4-nights though.
No, one's a 3-night.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
All right, Alicia, do you want to wrap us up here?
We have basically your Disney fast favorites from the Disney universe. So this includes Star Wars, Marvel, Pixar, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. These are your favorites. Who's your favorite character?
2 favorite characters, Jafar and Stitch. And I actually have a tattoo of them on my arm.
That's awesome. That's quite a combination.
It is.
Yes, it is. It's Stitch and Jafar coming out of the genie's lamp.
Oh, cool.
What's your favorite movie?
Ooh, favorite Disney movie. That is Aladdin is definitely up there. That's a great one. There's so many though that it's like hard to pick.
Yeah.
So if you're going like classic Disney, it's again Aladdin and Lilo and Stitch. There's some great story points in both of those that just hit home. A movie that I could absolutely just sit here and watch over and over and over again, Captain America Civil War and Winter Soldier, both Captain America films, both of those 2, I should say. There's 3, but those 2 in particular, like those are on, and I can just sit there and I can watch them. Like it's fantastic.
Awesome.
And yeah, I could pick from every single genre of Disney that you have. So I'll leave it at that.
Fair enough.
Your favorite ride?
Favorite ride, that is an interesting one, because rides keep coming and going and changing, and that sort of thing. So current favorite ride is Guardians of the Galaxy over at Epcot. And I want to state that the Tron roller coaster is absolutely fantastic. And I know that it was supposed to come out before Guardians, and it absolutely should have, because Tron is not near as good after riding Guardians. So anybody that's listening, go ride Tron first and then go ride Guardians.
Yes.
That is my tip, because you're going to while Tron is fantastic, you're going to be disappointed because Guardians is just really, really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Disney World or Disneyland?
I have never been to Disneyland,
okay.
so I have to say Disney World.
Well,
There you have
that's
it.
something on your bucket list then.
It is. At the latest, it will be 2026.
Mm.
So we have a Disney Around the World trip that we are planning
Oh,
for 2026.
oh, that sounds
So,
awesome.
and literally it's start in Florida, end in California, and go around the globe.
Wow.
Wow. Is that the Adventures by Disney one, or are you guys putting together
No,
yourself?
no. We are putting it together ourselves. That Adventure by Disney one at $125,000 a person. Yeah, we figured it out, and yeah, we can do it for cheaper than that. We're also like banking airline miles crazy for it to help facilitate that, and then Disney Vacation Club and all that fun stuff. But yeah, it's a fun trip that we're planning, and it's about 6.5 weeks, 7 weeks, with some stops in in the different countries that we're in for extra period of time as well.
That sounds awesome.
We may have to have you back on after that. Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
What is your favorite park that you've been to?
Favorite park is Hollywood Studios. And it was Hollywood Studios before Star Wars Land. And it's still Hollywood Studios. I think the theming of that park is just by far the best. My favorite to park or to people watch, though, however, is Magic Kingdom, because my absolute favorite memory is of my kids at Magic Kingdom, and we were pixie dusted by some cast members, and it was great. And then seeing that magic and seeing Magic Kingdom is geared towards kids like 8 and under, right?
Yeah.
Let's be honest. But seeing little kids light up and then their parents' reactions, it just is, it's one of the best feelings in the world.
Yep.
It's just a dose of serotonin. So
Yep.
if I'm just going to just walk around and just enjoy Magic Kingdom, but if I'm there to like partake and to actively be a guest at a park, it is Hollywood Studios.
What is your favorite hotel or resort?
That is a tricky one because as a DVC owner, we have our home resorts, and I have 3 home resorts. I've got Bay Lake Tower, I've got Alani, and I've got Riviera. And all of them are amazing in their own right for different reasons. So it's very tough to say which one is your favorite resort, because it's kind of like picking your favorite kid. It's always the oldest. No, I'm just kidding. But all 3 of them have very special meanings to me.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite DCL ship?
The Fantasy is my absolute favorite. The Magic is a close second. The Magic was our first sailing, and so that always holds a special place. And the smaller ships have the fact that I'm older now, I have a bigger appreciation for the smaller ships. Not because I don't have the energy to walk from one side to the other, but there's just a definite different vibe about the smaller ships
100%.
than the bigger ships. But the Fantasy, like, I know that ship so well. I've only been on it 3 times, but there is, like, the Wish, I thought wherever you turned, there was a new bar, right, to go to, which was one of the most fascinating things, but they were also small. They were like 8 people big.
Yeah.
The Fantasy, I feel like you got to walk a little bit, but if you find a bar, there's going to be like 20, 30 people. And depending upon the Facebook group, you just walk up and you're like, oh, look, there's Nathan. Like, let me have a drink with Nathan, right? Because someone is always sitting at one of those. So yeah, the Fantasy adult bar area is just absolutely so much fun in that area.
Just 2 more. What is your favorite Disney restaurant?
I'm going to go with the most expensive one and say Victoria and Albert's, which is by far the best food that I've ever had. We dined there on our honeymoon. We have dined there multiple times throughout the years. We just dined there to celebrate our 20-year anniversary, and it is phenomenal every single time. I have yet to go there and have anything I didn't like, and the service is always top-notch. If you want a slightly less expensive, like 80% less expensive restaurant, then it is Topolino's at Riviera. The best old-fashioned I've ever had was made there. I talk about the bartender there all the time and the story with that old-fashioned. and Topolino's is just absolutely, it's amazing. The food is great and the bartenders are great.
Yeah.
Last question. What is your favorite
Yes.
Disney snack?
Favorite Disney snack? Wow. The Oreo sandwich Mickey head is like the go-to. So way back in the day with the Disney dining plan, we would get it was like $60-$70 and you got 2 sit-down meals a day, like 4 snacks. And I just went through those stupid Oreo things like it was nobody's business. As I said, that was back with the like paper fast passes, and my wife's making me run across the park, and I'm like, let me grab an Oreo sandwich. So that is my favorite snack.
Nice.
Awesome.
Well, that is all we have for questions.
Brent, it has been such a pleasure to reconnect with you and learn about what it takes to put on one of these Facebook groups. And I will say on behalf of everybody else that was in our group, thank you so much for all the hard work and dedication that you put into everything. Even the fish extenders, we didn't partake, but I know everybody really appreciated all of the toil and struggle with working through that. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes, it's I know that I am the curator of the group and I am like the director, but the group does not happen just because of me. The group happens because of everybody else that's in the group. And it was absolutely a blast running this group. I had a lot of fun with it, and I cannot thank everybody that was on our sailing enough for making sure that it was an enjoyable experience.
I want to thank Brent again for talking with us about Facebook groups and what it takes to get one set up and I guess just be the coordinator and everything. That was really awesome to learn about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I learned something too. I had no idea that you actually started one of our cruise groups way back when.
I think I did. It's like 2017 or 2018. I believe it was one of the back-to-back ones in California that we did.
I don't even know who you are anymore.
I just started it. I didn't like admin it or anything. I don't want to do that.
Well, cool. Yeah. We all learned something new.
Exactly. Cake of the day.
Cake of the day. Absolutely. And sommelier beignets.
Oh, that does not sound good.
We need to make that a thing.
Nope.
Well, I guess it's time to do the legal mumbo jumbo.
Yes, while Sterling is dancing in the background.
We are not affiliated with Disney and we are not travel agents. So while we can offer our opinions and suggestions, we recommend working with a travel agent to plan your perfect vacation.
If you have any questions or suggestions, or would like to be interviewed on our show to share your Disney experience, please send us an email to podcast@ourmousecapades.com.
Go ahead and give us a follow on socials. We're at Our Mousecapades. And if you could open up that Apple Podcast app, which about half of you are using, please give us a rating and a review, 5 stars. Everything has to be 5 stars. That would really help us out and bring more people here onto the show.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for flying Star Tours. Bye-bye.